Why are you making it something beyond business on this thread alone? Because for Daniel Plainview, it's not just business. This is the way that he figures out who he is. This is how he maintains who he is. And anytime the mask or the idea of the business or something gets in the way of the business, anytime that slips, he starts to slip.
There Will Be Blood is Paul Thomas Anderson's masterpiece about the rise and fall of an oil tycoon. I think also a brilliant study of how the relentless pursuit of power will leave you with nothing but emotional burnout.
And I think it is a case study on psychopathic power structures. And my name is Charles.
And my name is Alex, and I struggle to not do that whole intro in the voice. You know what voice I'm talking about.
This is Day Chaser Media.
And we here at Day Chaser are drinking your milkshake.
We are drinking your milkshake.
That's what we should call the Patreon. That's one of the tiers is your milkshake.
Your milkshake.
Says, we drink it up in all caps.
I drink it up. I drink your milkshake.
I know that's a beautifully layered scene about power dynamics and how this guy can't let this like low level grifter like stop getting to him, but it also makes me always go for a milkshake right about now. Like
yeah,
like chocolate shake would kind of hit right now. I'm having a great time watching a movie. You know what I would love? A sweet treat. Thank you, Daniel Day-Lewis.
But then if you got a chocolate shake, it'll be the same color as the oil. Then it might not hit right. You know?
Yeah, it could. I mean, I want one though. I saw them say no. They're like, "Would you want a chocolate shake?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I could always do with a chocolate milkshake."
Okay.
After any and all life events and including tragedies, it could only help a little bit. You know.
Including tragedies, okay.
Up to and including.
So we're talking about.
Did you ever see that episode of BoJack Horseman where he gets good news and he's like, get the celebratory scotch? He's like, all we have is the sad scotch. He says, it's the same scotch.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh my God, I love BoJack Horseman. Honestly, yeah. BoJack Horseman kind of has There Will Be Blood vibes if you flip out the greed for self-loathing and the oil for Hollywood.
Oh, there will be sitcoms.
There will be sitcoms.
I starred in your program. I starred all over it.
Okay. We got to get back on track. Okay. We're talking about There Will Be Blood. Some of you guys out there may not have seen this movie. It's a bit of an old movie. And
you
who
just
cares?
killed
It's
my
good.
heart, man. I saw this when I was in college. You know, it's an old movie. God damn it.
I mean, it's old to some people. I mean, when did this movie come out?
That's
like 2008?
2007.
2007, yeah.
2007. My Chemical Romance were still young and gorgeous, and now they're still gorgeous, but maybe not as young.
Yeah, well, you know, not young, but still gorgeous, you know. They could say that about us, could they? I don't know. Maybe they could. Yeah. Anyway.
I like to think I'm aging gracefully.
There you go.
Although all the water and, emotional self-help just keeps you young.
Well, you're definitely aging better than Daniel Plainview. I mean, that man is going to look like Mr. Burns by the time he's probably like in his 20s the whole movie, I bet you.
I'm 23 years old.
And I'm an oil man.
I'm really more of an oil millennial. But don't use that language. It's 1908.
It's 1911, and this is my boy. He was baptized in blood and oil, quite literally. His father died in front of the entire crew, and I adopted him for marketing purposes.
I like how you get a little bit of a lisp right up there at the end when you because a lot of your impressions have a lisp, and so he kind of couldn't hold.
I couldn't hold it in. I don't know why I do that. Like every time I do an impression,
yearns to lisp is why, and that's not a value judgment. It's a scientific fact.
I think that's what it is.
It's just. And you know what? Let it out. That's what we do here at Day Chaser. We let out our feelings.
We just let them out. We let out our feelings while we watch too much everything.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
I've interrupted you like 8 times. It's a good
No, you're good. No, you're okay. Alex, let's start us off. So, what did you think of this movie? What are the ideas that this movie inspired in you?
So I've seen this movie probably like 7 or 8 times, and including I saw it when it came out in the theater, and I had not been diagnosed nor treated for ADHD yet, so I was like, there's no one talking in this. What is this? And I was like, I kind of liked it, and then as I've seen it more and more and more, I've liked it more and more and more. And every time I see it, like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, you notice more and more because it's so layered. And what I really noticed on this run is clearly I always knew it was about the rise and fall of how, money is not going to save your heart.
Right.
But what I didn't notice until this watch, because I've been thinking a whole lot lately about the sort of cost of the great man with the capital G, and all the things that you have to do to be dominant with a capital D on people, particularly through capitalism and things like that, is how this man, he says it by the campfire. He's like, I can't let anyone else succeed. It has to be me. And when you decide something that is that patently absurd must be true, you will do anything to achieve it. But not only will you do anything in terms of sinking lowest, you don't have a moment of peace, because any interaction, your mind is going, how are they trying to screw me over? I have to screw them over first. And that really struck me in the moment where, right when he and Eli Sunday are starting to have friction, where he's like, I'd really like to bless your well. And he's starting a little bit of a pissing contest there. Right. And Daniel Plainview is like, oh, you want to have an oil pissing contest? I've got a derrick. We'll fucking do it. And so he goes, yeah, show up. It's at 4:00. We'll do it. It'll be lovely. And he takes his little sister's hand and then he blesses the well.
Yeah.
And that to me says he can't have a conversation at all without at least scanning for danger. There is a hypervigilance involved in saying, I must win at all times, and it will destroy you if you do not stop it. And I don't say that with a sympathy necessarily, because people will do really bad things to do it, but there is some part of me that cannot feel empathy having been hypervigilant over certain emotional issues, at least seeing it in the dark reflection. But I'm like, hey, I know what that feels like to always be on your guard, and it sucks. And so to decide that your self-worth is only anything if you are at the top of the food chain, you have now made a conscious decision to say, I will never have a moment's peace. And that is a very interesting mindset to study, particularly in kind of the context of the American dream and the rags to riches, because that's where all that logically leads, is I will sacrifice everything to say I am better than you. And then, of course, you end up drunk in a bowling alley eating what looks to be a air-fried, well-done steak. It does not look good. And you're nothing. Because at the end of the day, no one is better than anyone. And if you decide to make this is the thing I'm fascinated with lately. If you decide to force an unreality into reality, even if the institutions are on your side, it will, if it doesn't go wrong with a capital W, it will feel wrong on some level because it won't fix what you're hoping it will fix. And I think that is as close to like universal justice as there ever will be. Is, you know what? All that shit, you can drink all the milkshakes you want. You're still miserable inside. You still are, because you're trying to make an absurdity true so that you can say, yeah, but then I can look myself in the mirror. There's a lot of other ways to look yourself in the mirror that don't involve relentless oil baronism, and they will probably help you a lot more.
That makes a lot of sense. And so you're saying that in a way, Daniel Plainview is kind of a personification of what it's like to live life operating purely through fear, but then getting really good at it.
Yeah, he is a man who has he's what I'd like to another thing I find interesting, which is the peril of success when you get what you want and it allows you to steer into your worst impulses. And then I think it's kind of beautiful that because life gives you, tests of who you are. And if you're a person that likes to be sensitive and do your best, you try to, even if you don't make the right call, you go, shit, I really should have done better by that person. And then you never act like that again. And you learn about yourself in the way that's actually going to help you be your best self. But if you get what you wanted young, particularly, in many ways, There Will Be Blood is like a cautionary tale about he's not famous per se, but like that kind of like you peaked too early because he's learned the wrong lessons from his success. He lucked into oil and then convinced himself, because he was good at business and managing the oil, I am the apex predator. And that apex predators die like every other animal.
Yeah, no, they do. And, that's a lovely thing to bring up, actually, calling him an apex predator, because many apex predators, they are existentially locked into their own nature. They never really fight against it. They're rarely in conflict with it. And Daniel Plainview, he's constantly doing this thing in the movie that I observed, where he's always introducing himself and defining who he is for the people he's introducing himself to before they can. And he's always saying I'm an oil man. He's always saying that. He keeps saying that he's an oil man, that he considers himself to be an oil man. The only time that he lies about what he is or what his intentions are is when he's trying to get over on somebody, like with the quail hunting. And he tried to, that's literally what he was teaching HW. What did HW stand for? Do you know? Because I was literally calling him like, does he say it in the movie?
I think he just says, this is my son HW. It might, now I don't know if this is true, but Johnny Cash's original birth name is J.R. Cash. It might stand for nothing, but probably not. But I can't, maybe it's in a contract that they pan over with the camera, but I don't think they ever actually say it.
Okay, because like the whole movie,
Twitter, come for me. I'm sure I'm wrong.
Yeah, like in the comments, could you tell us what the kid's HW's name, like the H and the W, stood for? Because like the whole movie, I was like jokingly calling him like hamburger waffle and
H.G. Wells, Plainview, but the G is tucked away in there.
Yeah, it's just because it was funny to me. Like I was watching this hyper serious movie. And it's just
I also love the fact. So you don't smoke pot, and neither do I. But you just thought of the most stoner meal that's ever been thought of: hamburger waffles. If you're making them, I'll try one.
It wouldn't be. You just make a hamburger or a cheeseburger. Mm-hmm. If you want cheese, then you replace the buns with waffles.
That's truly now you're thinking like a stoner.
Yeah, or like an oil man. I'm like a waffle man.
I love to blaze a fat one and make a waffle sandwich.
Your town is going to have lots of opportunities. We'll build churches and roads, and this is my son, Hamburger Waffle. He's also my partner, and we're going to make a line of fast food. I'm getting addicted to talking like that. It is a problem.
So the thing about Day-Lewis performances is, on some level they're all amazing, but they're also kind of ridiculous, but in a way that like works. Like Bill the Butcher is an absurdly silly character, but you also know he will eat your fucking eyeballs.
He really will.
It rides that line so perfectly, and it's just like I'm an oil man. I drink it up. And you want to go, why do you talk like that? What's your whole? Calm the fuck down, dude.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but really quick. So what I was saying before I lost the plot focusing on HW too much. So
the voice is going to plague us the whole episode. By the way, just strap in for that, Day Chasers. It's not going away. It's too much fun.
So when he would introduce himself, as an oil man, introducing his son and everything. There's this concept called I think it's ego dystonic. Have you ever heard of this concept?
Yes, actually.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it is, but I've heard the.
It's a psychology term where because when a person experiences cognitive dissonance, that's them experiencing an emotional conflict with something, like when their emotions and their actions don't agree with each other. So they they do necessarily. Or sorry, I'm mixing this up. Basically, ego dystonic means that that when you do something and you don't have conflict with it. That's what it essentially means. Now, I kept observing in Daniel Plainview that he was like that. Like anytime he did anything when it came to the movie, rarely did he actually have any kind of conflict in that way. The closest you think maybe he probably got to, because just to piggyback on your Apex Predator comparison, the closest he probably got to was when he abandoned HW on the train. But even then, he was thinking much more about what he was trying to do and the burden that his son had become for him and his personal goals. And then he tried to slap a Band-Aid on it, which also ended up being its own pissing contest for a totally different character by bringing him back into his life and then pretty much abandoning him again. Like, it was just a back and forth with that. But Daniel Plainview really comes off like the classic I'm the big bad, lion in the jungle, but his jungle was, capitalism in the 1800s or the early 1900s, and his nature was such that he could not resist the urge to hate other people. He couldn't get around that. And even to a point where he openly admitted, I mean, how many movies know their character well enough where they can just get them to actually admit and spell out the nature of their own ego? That's part of the reason this movie is so good, I think.
Yeah, and I love that scene because he's talking to a guy. What he's doing is really interesting. He's talking to the guy that's claiming to be his brother. He's making a little bit of a show of it where he's trying to almost scare him, to make sure that are you really? He's like, I hate everybody and I blah 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 blah. But you can also tell, given that how he reacts when he realizes it wasn't his brother, and then knows that it was his actual brother's journal, and that he did have a brother, and that he'll never meet him, and he gets really upset.
Yeah.
Part of him is also doing that thing when you finally kind of feel safe around someone, and you start word vomiting a little bit. But because he's him, he's got to couch it. So I think he thinks that he's making a show of it to test this dude, and I think he is, but I also think he's given away his own game a bit more than he means to by just plainly saying his worst qualities out loud. So what I was saying before, that I lost my train of thought on a little bit. I think one of the beautiful things about the way life challenges you, and gives you, if you're a person that tries to be better, it will give you opportunities to grow, and then opportunities to use that growth, right?
Right.
If you are a person who does not do that, you still get those moments, but you spectacularly fail them. And it makes you go, you remember in No Country for Old Men where Anton Chigurh says, if all your morals or whatever brought you here, what good were they? Because you brought you to me and I'm going to kill you. I've had moments where I've met people who were so crazy wealthy and successful, all their dreams came true. And then, there was one moment I did someone a small kindness, and they kind of spat in my face for it. I don't think they thought they were doing that, but they really had no class about saying thanks but no thanks about something. And then they just sort of moved on, and I'm thinking, in the moment I felt so bad. And now I've looked on that moment if all your success and dreams came true brought you to all you had to do was not be an asshole to someone who cared about you, then what the fuck good was any of it? You failed the test. Now, I don't want to toot my own and be like, and I was sent by the heavens to test your, but people get thrown into your path to test if you're gonna be it, if you figured it out yet. And some people have figured out how to have a schmancy apartment, but they haven't figured out how to not be an asshole when you give them a Christmas present and they don't have a DVD player.
You're flashing back.
Flashing back implies I'm not thinking about it constantly. Point being, this movie, it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's plotless, but it is kind of that, it's a loose, meandery kind of slice of life kind of vibe a little bit, where you're seeing, it's not so much we got to get the guy to do the thing, it's charting his arc, but it's things happening along the way that matter for it. It's much looser than being rigid plot wise. And everything on the way up is kind of daring him to not be his worst self, and everything on the way down is basically saying you still have time, but every time he can't do it. And what makes this script, I think, so good, and the performance so good, is he's not just a fuck everybody, I'm the apex predator and I fucking love it. He has moments that are very quiet and very human where he's swimming and then gets really hurt that his brother is clearly a grifter and not actually his brother, or cries over the journal. He clearly does care for his son, just not enough in the ways that matter to not be a terrible father. And I think that's so much more interesting than just cracking your knuckles and going, I'm a sociopath. Good night, folks.
Well, I mean, it's a capacity thing. He may, I mean, that's part of the reason why I thought about the whole case study of psychopaths in terms of geometric power structures. I'll get to that in a moment. But Daniel Plainview, he may not have the capacity or the emotional range to experience the full depth of love for another human being, it always seems to be interrupted by his apathy and his anger. It's kind of like in American Psycho when Patrick Bateman was talking about his emotional experiences or the range of his emotional experience. He said that the only emotions he could feel anymore are greed and disgust, I think. And that's really sad in its own way. I mean, obviously we shouldn't feel bad for Patrick Bateman, but at the same time, it's sad that his brain
I shouldn't make a American Psycho like a reel with like in the arms of the angel far away. He's doing the dance with the fucking tarp on.
Oh my God, yeah, that's super funny. I might cut that. I might edit that. I might have to do that. Anyway, but yeah, like that. So yeah, Patrick Bateman's brain was dissolving. Daniel Plainview, on the other hand, I mean, he's just like that. That's just who he is, as a ruthless capitalist who happens to be a psychopath. And the reason I say he's a psychopath is because of the way that he describes his inner reality. That pivotal scene where he was talking to his grift brother, the person he thought was his brother, where he's just being honest about what he feels and how he thinks of people. And then the very next scene where you see the brother asking him for money inside of that, what was that, a brothel they were in, or like a trap house?
A sex work.
Yeah, like I never thought I would see
house or something. It was something's going on there.
Yeah,
it's definitely like a sex workplace.
Yeah, I never thought I'd see a early 1900s trap house, but like, I mean, cinema is cinema. Anyway, but when he's in there and the brother goes to ask him for money, the look in Daniel Plainview's eyes said so much about him, because in that moment, that was one of the rare moments in the movie where he was not doing his oil man nonsense. He wasn't in the moment of being a businessman or demanding the control of other people through his business or managing his employees or anything like that. He was just hanging out with his brother in a way that he really didn't like, or his supposed brother in a way that he really didn't like. And there was just this deep rage and disgust on his face. And you could tell, or at the very least, the way I took it was that it wasn't just about the man that was his brother. It wasn't just about his brother. It was about everyone and everything that was happening in that room. And what was happening in that room was just humans doing human stuff. That's really all that was happening. Like they had a couple making out over there, and then there was like drug stuff happening off screen and everything. Like the just very base kind of human experiences that don't require this control or this apathetic engagement that he's used to. And seeing humans at their most basic inspired this seething kind of apathy, this anger in him. I just thought that was so, Daniel Day-Lewis barely said anything, but so much of that was in there. It was so much of that was captured in that moment. It was amazing.
Yeah. There's a certain type of personality that when they are driven beyond driven, they think that they're above everyone, and that means they think they're above like vices and virtues. So they see people like, oh, I'm gonna have a couple drinks and maybe I don't know, request a song from the player piano, like whatever. And he's like, wow. Internally, he's angry that people can have fun because clearly he can't. He cannot do it. He is capable of, and this is why I'm not entirely certain that he is a psychopath, because he clearly feels things, but he is definitely so selfish that he is acting like one. I don't know if you'd say he's a medical one. I think it's a little more complicated than that. But he's sitting there and but he's also a hypocrite. He drinks and smokes and takes advantage of people, but he's angry that people are drinking and having a good time because he's so miserable and he has to justify, like you said up top, he is a man who is completely driven by fear. And he will describe it as, I am driven by hate, I am driven by business, I am driven by dominance. But underneath all of that is, why are you driven by those things? Because you're so deeply afraid. Like I remember the comedian Bill Burr once on his podcast years ago, before he did the festival in Saudi Arabia, let's say. Yeah.
Yes.
He said, people love to go, oh, Bill, you're so angry. You're so angry. He's like, if you really look at my act, everything is about me being afraid. I'm pissed off because I'm afraid. That's what's actually under there, and that's what makes things like this much more human than just, oh, he's a dick. It's like, oh, well, why can't he see anyone succeed? Well, because he's afraid that means he doesn't mean anything. It's an existential threat to him.
Yes, somehow the idea of other people's success keeps translating emotionally to him. Like, if they're eating, then whatever I was supposed to eat at the table has now been gone. If anybody else eats, I don't get to eat. And that's what it feels like. It's like a scarcity, which makes sense because capitalism, frankly, can only exist in infinity if scarcity either exists or is engineered. And Daniel Plainview, through his emotional reality and his perspective of the world, has become an expert at either taking advantage of that scarcity or inventing it. And it's very one-to-one. Like his psychological or emotional reality is slotted in to being a capitalist and being an oil man so intently. And I think I also agree with you. You said something earlier about he might not be a psychopath. I'm using that loosely based on another observation I made about like our society many years ago. Because I agree. It's likely more nuanced than that. And also, I don't have a medical degree to be diagnosing fictional characters.
Wait, you don't? That was in the contract I signed.
All the day chat. What do you mean you don't use a phone?
You said you were a podcast man, and you said it in a voice, and it was very compelling.
It's like he did a whole voice? Only people with degrees can do voices.
There's that lisp again.
I might just actually have a lisp, and I've never noticed it. You think maybe that is? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it just comes out at certain times. I don't know. But anyway, so the thing I said earlier about the geometric... The theory is not even 100% my theory, but the way that I sum it up is the psychopathic geometric power structures. That's a whole lot of syllables. Here's what that means. When you look at how humans form power structures, like when you have a town full of people, there'll be like a mayor or something like that at the top. There'll be one person at the very top, and at the bottom will be a big old base of everybody else, and then a bunch of people in between. It's shaped like a triangle. That's the geometry of it. Now, what happens often, not all the time, but often, people like Daniel Plainview, in many cases, psychopathic people, again, don't refer to this medically, but look at this theory as a point for an inspiration for research. And if you have done research on this already, please put this in the comments because I'm fascinated with this idea. But psychopathic people tend to be attracted to positions of power. Interestingly enough, a position of power won't always present itself. Sometimes they have to invent positions of power so they can create these structures underneath themselves. Daniel Plainview, in this movie, he does both. We see him put himself in a position of power by becoming an oil man, but at the same time, when he learns about, what's the name of the town that he goes to, where he meets the Sunday family?
There's a whole lot of towns in this, ain't there? I don't remember.
I don't remember. Anyway, when he goes to meet the Sunday family on their ranch, on their goat ranch, and he does so because Paul Sunday told him about oil seeping up through the ground. Immediately, he's doing power grab moves. He's saying just because there's oil on the surface, it doesn't mean there's anything underneath. And he's a smart, savvy. Unfortunately, he's a very smart and savvy businessman because he knows that oil can present in a lot of different ways and be evidence of a vein close to the bottom. He understands this. So this is why he actually does invest time and money to lie about hunting quail just so he can investigate this possible opportunity. And you could tell that he believes in it just by the threat, which to me was one of the best lines in the movie, where he says, if I find out that you're lying to me, I'm going to take more than my money back. I love that line. But then it's also says something because it's like, well, this is business. Why are you making it something beyond business on this threat alone? Because for Daniel Plainview, it's not just business. This entire thing is an identity coefficient. The whole thing. This is the way that he figures out who he is. And at the very least, he already figured out who he is. This is how he maintains who he is. And anytime the mask or the idea of the business or something gets in the way of the business, anytime that slips, he starts to slip. The cracks in his personality, they really start to show because there's no baseline, which leads me back to the pyramid. The geometry of power, the triangle of power that psychopaths tend to yearn for, that baseline becomes the base that they can't form in their own minds. They don't have a baseline for their own personalities or their own sense of self. So they turn other people into servants that justify their existence the way that they feel like they can. Because, you don't have to justify your existence. We all just exist because we do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But some of us are plagued with the existential force of feeling like we need to understand why we exist to a point where it becomes threatening for other people, or where we feel apathy for others, because it can sometimes come off like people just live through life feeling just naturally. Like they don't have the same kind of judgments. They don't have the same kind of confusion. They don't have the same kind of hangups when it comes to not feeling the things that they think they should be feeling. And then some people, they feel like they need to take that from someone else in order to understand it or feel it or relate to it in any way. That's really what I think Daniel Plainview was after when it comes to the oil, when it comes to all of this. He doesn't have a real sense of self 100%. That's the real fear that he's running from, that there is no Daniel inside of the body of Daniel Plainview.
Yeah, like, you know how they say in late stage capitalism, scarcity has to be enforced, like we were talking about, it has to be engineered.
Yes.
Daniel Plainview, you can make a very compelling argument, he is kind of like a misery addict, and he is enforcing the scarcity of happiness. Like, but if I'll be dominant, that'll be good enough. But it's like, no, you and like this also what you were saying about the triangle. This gets it into why I think Paul Dano's character is interesting, and why, as much as I love his films, I think Quentin Tarantino missed the whole point of why Paul Dano's a good actor in this role. So he said, to touch on the tea, he was like,
we touching tea? Touch the tea. Touch it.
Yeah. Ooh, it's warm. Is that a honey lavender? Ooh. So it's my favorite kind of tea. Anyway, he's like, it's supposed to be a two-hander, and clearly it's not, because this one guy has like no riz, and like it should have been a better actor. And I always thought the point of this character was he is also a grifter, but he is a small-time, I'm just gonna fleece this parish and pretend I can do miracles. And because it's Paul Dano, who I think is a good actor, but like he doesn't have the charisma of a Daniel Day-Lewis, and so I think he's really, really good when he's in roles of guys who are kind of nothing. Right. Like, he was a great Riddler in the Batman, because that was a study in how incel pipelining over Reddit will make a supervillain who doesn't know who the fuck he is. So I think what's so interesting, and why this is definitely a two-hander, you're right, Quentin, but you're wrong that it's supposed to be two guys sparring, because it's not really. It's what makes it so interesting to me, and how it's played, is that Daniel Day-Lewis sees himself as, like we said, the apex predator. I'm the great man. How is this little motherfucker with no riz standing in my way? And it like insults everything about him. Right. And that's why I think if you had a character or an actor who was oozing charisma, and I think Paul Dano is interesting to watch, but he's not quite that. If you had that, it's like, oh, these are two guys who are the same thing, who are fighting over territory. But it's a little more nuanced than that. It's that he is the same animal as him, but he's like, but he's looking at this guy who has, and even just down how they're dressed, and like I took a good look at my TV up close, where Daniel Day-Lewis has that great mustache. And as he gets further and further down the fall part of the rise and fall, like he's got like that gray stubble. It looked like. I took a good look at Paul Dano's face, and it is like three, peach fuzz hair, and you're like, oh, that's his beard. It's bad, but I think it's a great choice. It's like, oh, you should have just shaved that, man. You'd look a whole lot better. But it's like, not that he is trying to do the thing, but point being is a parallel in how they're kind of styled, and that this, if Eli Sunday had the relentless drive and the charisma and the intelligence and the resources of Daniel Plainview, he would so be a Daniel Plainview. But he doesn't have any of those things, so he is a scam some folks out of some tithing money. But because he is situated where he is and standing in the way of this piece of land that Daniel Day-Lewis needs so badly, he has become, like the Spartans in front of the Thermopylae, that like he is now a problem. And that's why this dude has to get on his knees and yell, "I abandoned my child," because he has to give supplication to this dude who's just kind of nothing. And I think that's so interesting. It says a lot about the grifter sphere that, like, not everybody's great at it, but you know what? It's a race to the bottom. There's no honor among thieves, even the ones who are better at it than others or have different intentions. So point being, why I brought that up to what you're saying is he is a top rung psychopath.
Yeah.
And he's dealing with a low rung psychopath, but it's a problem.
Yes.
And that insults everything he's ever done. And that's why he's just like, I'm going to beat this man with a bowling pin to death someday. I can feel it. Like, you can.
Well, I mean, they both.
And the other guy is enjoying it. He's humiliating him on purpose. Like, it's so good. It's so good. Because capitalism and money and, like I said, these making identity coefficients out of things that should not be our identity are absurdities. And when you twist absurdities into, if you manifest them where now they're problems, absurdities will just happen because you'll fight over money, which is a piece of paper, and oil, which is some gunk that used to be dinosaurs. Like it is absurd because it's absurd, and we have to watch them take it seriously because their identities depend on absurdities becoming true. They can't admit that these are like, why are we fighting over oil, man? This is stupid. They can't do it. It's their whole identities.
Well, you can see a lot of that in the symbolism behind the movie, too. And some of the symbolism, when I was rewatching it yesterday, I was projecting a little bit of it because, again, I'm fascinated with the idea of human principles or ideas being expressed as geometrical shapes, which is why I like the idea of the geometry of power and how the tip of it often is attracted to psychopath types. But then I noticed that these two people were vying to be the most powerful figures in Eli Sunday and Daniel Plainview. They were vying to be the most powerful figures in this town. They both had their triangles in their way, in a way. So you had the church's steeple, you had the shape of the oil wells, both triangles.
The derricks, yeah.
Right. Then, but that, that's just one, that was my projection. But as I went through it, I'm like, okay, what are the other symbols that are visible here that are an indication of this fight? Well, the movie is called There Will Be Blood. The amount of times that we see actual blood is kind of minimal. But do you ever notice that's always mixed with one of their goals? The first bit of blood that we saw was mixed with oil. Then you look at the next mention of blood that we experience is the blood of Christ in the church. So it's like they're investing in blood that doesn't 100% exist, but it's really the violence associated with both of their goals smashing into each other. So that is the blood that there will be.
Except the lifeblood of a community just like thriving. Like, God forbid they don't get grifted.
Yeah, exactly. Like Eli Sunday is trying to drain people of autonomy from their own souls by using the blood of Christ, for example.
Yes.
And then Daniel Plainview is trying to drain the town of its resources by using the blood of the land underneath that's seeping through the surface, which is the oil. So, and Daniel himself also has, like, frankly, he has a bad relationship with his own blood. From his brother that's not really his brother, his son that's not really his son, himself that's not really himself.
Yeah. It's like I said, everything except the blood of like a healthy human being is what we see in this movie. Every piece of blood that we see in this movie, not that I expect there to be like blood tests where they're like, you're all good, Daniel. Like, but point being, it's either blood drawn or blood metaphorically, and all of it is like, this shouldn't be coming out right now. Like it's all an unhealthy representation of it's like I said, it's all twisting of things for power, of things that would be either don't matter or would be much better left on their own. Like people that community seems to care about each other and stuff, but he's got to pretend that he can do miracles so that they bow to him, so he can collect money and pretend he's going to build a bigger church and all
Right.
that sort of shit. He can't just let it alone. But like, and it really, I'm not going to be like, I'm 14 and this is deep. Like, and it says something about religion that like the blood of that is like, but it makes the comparison between, grifter Christianity and oil baronism in a way that I think is very interesting, that it's like, hey, we're the same thing deep down.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, the grifters come out when the land is bleeding.
Yeah,
and
grifters arise because there is because there is prey. They don't just graze and die. Like they arise like a tick to it. Like when you get mosquitoes in your room, you're like, well, I have blood. They want my blood.
Or sharks. The sharks are attracted to blood. I mean, what was the blood in this town? For Daniel Plainview, it was literally the oil. For Eli Sunday, it was the level of, there was the land was not, they could not farm the land to grow crops. The best they could do was have their goats. I mean, we're talking about like basically the ghosts of a wagon train that dropped a bunch of people off several years before, and they're all struggling to stay alive. There's this abject desperation that the people of this town are just sitting on and living within. It's not a breeding ground. It's a feeding ground. It's a hunting ground. And the two predators vying for the exact same thing. They both want power. Eli Sunday wants power, and his way of getting it is by getting people committed to the Bible and the miracles that he's supposedly doing. And I mean, I'm sorry, it's just a real good movie. Y'all should watch this movie.
It's so good. And like, even down to the fact that, like I said, part of why I think Paul Dano's giving a really good performance is because he doesn't play it like he's oozing charisma out of his eyeballs like Daniel Plainview. He's a grifter in a small town. Like when he does his whole old world medicine show, whatever, where he's like, get out of here, go. You're like, this man's kind of just silly. Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't believe that because I'm not bought into this. And also, I just thought of this now, particularly like that kind of like faith healer grifterism.
Yes.
Is so interesting to me because let's say that this is a church that go every Sunday and
Sure.
Everyone knows his name and they all love him because they think that he loves all that shit.
Right.
He says the Holy Spirit told me, caress this woman, get out of here, ghost. You don't have arthritis anymore.
Right.
But we know that whenever people go to those things and they go, oh my God, I'm healed. It's adrenaline and it's hope and it's whatever. They always get worse again, which means he has to see her again and she'll be in pain. And he is banking on the fact that she's going to just keep it to herself. So he is on one level playing a long game power move with these people. Like he's making himself appear kind-hearted, but also you wouldn't question the voice of God. Like he's gaslighting them in a major way, in a long-term way. And also, I just find that kind of grifterism really interesting because he must know, or on some level, I didn't really do anything. Which means he's going to have to be able to deal with those threats as they arise. Someone going, hey, but my knees suck again. And he's got to have an answer for that. Like, so he is smarter probably than Daniel Plainview would give him credit for. It's just he is a grifter with a lowercase g. He lives in a small town. He takes the bit of blood that he can. Daniel Plainview is a wildly successful grifter who is equally as predatory and as empty, but his business is like agreed upon by the world. I am the best type of grifter. I am an oil man. You're doing some nonsense fucking snake handlerism.
Well, do you think he's a grifter with a lowercase g, or is Daniel Plainview just earlier in the career than he is? Because Daniel is older than him. He's been at it for longer. Eli did later in the movie have prospects to leave the town and go on a mission to get more people from different towns, and I think he was a little bit successful too when he came to visit Daniel again in the bowling alley. I mean, what do you think?
Because he was crying because his investments tanked, which means he had investments.
Right.
I think the reason why I say grifter with a lowercase g is he's clearly just not as good at it.
Oh,
this is a skills issue, as the kids say, where it's like, oh, I can tell why this man didn't have I'm going to play two oil companies off of each other and make my fortune watching them fight. It looks, the way I read it with how this man operates, I wouldn't buy that he could go to the big city and start like a Joel Osteen church. I think they would laugh at him. But the small town that's desperate, that he is good enough at reading people and embedded enough in the community to know all their weaknesses, and they know him long enough to trust him. But so he's like a small grifter in that I'm like, okay, this is the AAA baseball. Daniel Plainview is in the fucking major leagues, but AAA guy is going, nah, I'm going to stop your contract. And that is infuriating to his whole identity. And I love that dynamic.
Yeah, it's like Daniel Plainview is the lion and Eli Sunday is one of these hyenas that keep nipping at him.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. There was one other thing about some of the symbolism that I spotted. And again, this is my interpretation. I don't necessarily believe that the writers or directors planned for this. I thought it was an interesting parallel. The last names, Eli Sunday and Daniel Plainview, because it's indicative of how they see the world.
Yeah.
You know, like Eli Sunday, everything that he sees is associated with his church and with God and everything, even the bad parts of him, the good parts of him. He's a very specific kind of evil that has cloaked himself around a parish, around the idea of a church. Daniel Plainview, well, he has a plain view, as in he only sees the worst of people. He only sees the muck and the crud and the mud in front of him. It's like he's looking at the world too close and he's seeing it as the nasty thing that it can sometimes be from a certain perspective, but he can't leave that perspective at all. And that whole thing, which honestly, HW's caught in the middle of that. Because HW's literal ability to have perspective is compromised by messing around with, well, not messing around, but by being involved with Daniel Plainview. I mean, he loses his ability to hear. It even gets to a point where as he becomes an adult, he can't pronounce his consonants the same way that he could as a kid because he has been living his life so long basically without his hearing. And he picked up a whole lot from Daniel Plainview when it came to being a businessman and that sort of thing. And he wanted, I mean, I don't know if he necessarily wanted his adoptive father's blessing when he came to revisit him, but it was interesting that he went there to tell him that he was going to go start a business in Mexico. And Daniel's plain view of what he at one point saw was not only his son, but his meal ticket to manipulate people was he is a competitor now. That is the new way I can see him. There's only one way that he can see anything, and it is all through the plain view. I keep saying that. I hope people don't think I'm trying to be deep. I really feel like this about this movie.
I mean, what you're saying is that Daniel Plainview, for all his intelligence, is a binary thinker, is black
That's
and white.
what I mean.
It's like
yes.
You're with me or against me. And that's why I think he's such an interesting character who we learn almost nothing about. We know a couple of details, but he's so compelling. It kind of just struck me on this view. I'm like, hey, we never really get like what his relationship with his dad was like. There's like one line about it. It's really just watching him kind of unravel.
Right.
And I think it's like there's that scene where he says, he's talking to Standard Oil. And they're like, well, you're never going to get a deal that's better than this. And he goes, well, what would I do? What would I do if I don't look for oil? And he's saying that like to fuck with them. But again, this is a man who is not nearly as good at hiding. Daniel Plainview is a glass house that is covered in oil. You can still kind of see through it, even though he thinks you can't.
Yes.
So like when he goes, what would I do? Like I met someone once who was really miserable and awful to people. And they mentioned to me that they had a thyroid condition, and it was a condition that was associated with lower mood. And I said, well, you should at least try to treat it. And they said these words to me that I'll never forget. What would I do if I was happy?
Wow.
And they just gave the entire game away of their entire like, oh no, and like what we said about scarcity, they're engineering a situation where they must fuck you before they fuck it. Because if they don't, they have to ask a whole lot more painful questions about themselves. They have to, it's not just, and this is what I get to the whole, the hypervigilance of power. You can clearly tell, at least from my view, my plain view, that Daniel Plainview has, in the way he offhandedly talks about his worldview,
Yes.
You can tell he has processed that there are other options, but he's like, no, fuck that. And so it's like, okay, he's like, what would I do if I didn't look for this oil? And that, like we talked about, dominance and anger being hiding the oil, if you will, that is just the fear unreally. He's afraid to stop. He's deeply afraid to stop. And then he gives it to Union because they gave him a better deal. And that's what unmakes it. He completely falls apart. He gets his kid back because he makes another run at that. It doesn't work because the kid feels so betrayed. And then he's just a shitty business partner with him for another 20 years until, and I love that scene where the kid is saying, like, I'm just going to go away for a while and start my own company. Because you can tell what he really wants to say is like, Dad, you're toxic. I love you. I need to get away from you for a bit to save our relationship. And Daniel Day-Lewis, it's not that he sees right through it, but he sees it in a way, he takes it in as you're my competition. But he also is good enough at reading people that he does kind of see through it. He knows what this actually means. I want away from you. But he can't go, well, I've been such a shitty father that I have done this to myself. He says, you hate me because I'm successful or because you don't like my business. So I'm fascinated by that type of brain that is not only resistant to the truth, has an answer almost ready to go for why the truth is not actually the truth.
Yeah.
And it's a scary place to live, I imagine, because everything is a threat. Now, I, for many years have looked on those people and been like almost jealous, like, wow, at what point do you live in a delusional reality and everything else kind of meets you where it's like, maybe you are happy just fucking everybody else and you just don't listen to the screams under the floorboards. But every story about success, up to a disgusting degree, stories about fame and about crazy wealth, they're all cautionary tales, which to me says everybody knows that delusions don't pay off in the long run. They can't, because they are directly at odds with reality. And reality, like the house in Vegas, always has the advantage. You cannot gamble forever and win. You can only maybe lose less until you die or something. But like, no one who makes it their business to never live in the real world can have a moment's peace, because they are, the myth of the sword of Damocles.
Yes.
Yeah, like I love that image of the guy. If you don't know it, a guy is really envious of a king. He's like, but I want it, and he's like, oh, do you? Here's what it feels like, and he sits him on the throne, and then he goes, hey, there's a sword with a horsehair. If it snaps, it will kill you. That's what I feel like all the time, and that I think is a much more self-aware person than maybe a lot of leaders are, and particularly this character. But it's the same emotion of like, hey, if you make it your business to defy the truth, you could do it, but you will condemn yourself to the company of lies. And lies don't love you back. They really don't. Like
that might be the title of the episode.
Yeah.
Lies don't love you back.
Lies don't love you back.
Lies
I think of
don't
myself as a
love you back,
podcast man.
That's why I'm an oil man. The oil will love me back if I get enough of it. There will never be enough.
Because this movie is so good, I love to think about what worse versions of this movie would look like. And I'm like, oh, he'd drown in oil, Scrooge McDuck style, or like we would meet his shitty family and it would kind of want you to like love him, and like he would reconcile with the son. I'm like, no, it's better that we barely know anything about him and yet you know everything, but just because of just how he treats other people. And like I said, life gives you almost like cinematic moments it gives you plot beats to show that you've learned the lesson or to learn the lessons. And every one of them he fails to some degree or another, even sometimes when he's kind of trying. And I think that's what makes it so interesting, is that he is, for all intents and purposes, a business psychopath. But like, he does seem like he feels terrible about giving his son away, and then brings him back and seems to be genuinely like, I'm glad I did this. And then the son just can never trust him again. Like, No, I
was just going to say, what character honestly is possibly, in the vein of what you're saying, what character that is possibly the closest to Daniel Plainview when it comes to his entire existential crisis and emotional condition is Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty.
Huh? Yeah.
He feels it feels like the same journey.
I say.
It feels.
Morty, we've got to. I don't know the characters, but
there's way more parallels than I'm realizing. That with the Morty and the HW and all this.
Now I've got an intergalactic pipeline coming through, but this little pissant is standing in my way.
I'm a portal man.
Okay,
Morty.
there must have been parody fan art where it's Rick and Morty, but they're Daniel Plainview and HW, right?
And if there's not, somebody needs to send us some.
Make that now, and if it's AI, I won't be happy.
I will be upset. We will both be upset. We won't ban you from watching the show, though. We can't do that.
And we wouldn't, because we believe in forgiveness here at Day Chaser.
Yeah, that's true. We believe in forgiveness. Unlike Daniel Plainview, who doesn't believe in anything but money and oil and greed and oil. Yep. Twice as much oil as it is money and greed. I have a question for you, Alex. It's like a story time question. By this I mean it's a question to get you to tell a story, but it's a legitimate question related to this. Have you met anyone in real life that you could say comes close to the conditions of Daniel Plainview? Or even Eli Sunday, either one?
Yeah, I've met grifters before. I've met people who you can tell not a word out of their mouth not even is honest, but could ever be honest, because they've got too much riding on, getting the hooks in you. I remember I did stand-up comedy for many years, and I did a show, and they put me up like 20th. It was like a bringer show, like I brought a couple people, which are always a scam. And right. I did like fine. I hadn't been doing it that long, it was whatever it was. And I being me, I was always very critical of how I did in any situation. So I want, I've got a codependence heart. I want a little reassurance. And so I said to the guy that booked me, I was like, I think that went all right, but and he looked me in the eyes with dead, lifeless, like a doll's eyes from Jaws eyes, and said, "I know you could be a star someday." And in that moment, I was like, this man would kill me if it would suit Idris.
Oh my God.
Like probably not that bad, but like, he's like, I just know you've proved tonight that you could be a star. And I was like, I already know that this is some bullshit. And I've had people say stuff like that to me where I could tell they were full of shit, but like in a nice way, like they're being overly generous, which is cool, but I still don't trust it. But that I was like, it's the fucking eyes, man. He had like the Makima, the swirly evil chainsaw man eyes. I'm like, no, I don't believe that you're even in the room with me right now. You're just seeing me cough dollar signs like I'm on Rick and Morty and we're in the dollar coughing multiverse or whatever.
It sounded like he was doing one of those things. A lot of very manipulative type of people do this, where they will. I guess it's not exactly love bombing, but it's a kind of love bombing where they'll tell you something to appeal to your ego. And then what ends up happening on like a nervous system level is that if you fall for it, then that kind of dopamine hit becomes something you can only get from that person. And then you become addicted to being around that person, which is what the phenomenon of why do I attract so many narcissists comes from. It really comes from your body or your body or mind has been primed for a certain kind of emotional or psychological stimuli that only a certain assigned narcissist can get to you. So you go to them to get regulation for your nervous system that they have already destroyed. Usually it starts off with something like that, where it'll be a small little compliment or like, and it's usually like people who pay very, very close attention to you to a point where it's almost like they're studying you because they're looking for the thing that you want. They're mining for your desires in a way.
That's why it's con man is short for confidence man.
Yes.
They're looking for where's the hitch that I can go, oh, you know what? I think you've got beautiful eyes. And then you're like, and then suddenly you're like, sure, I'll write you a check. Like,
yeah, that's how it starts. And then all of a sudden, you've sold most of your town away to Daniel Plainview because he said that the first place that the road will go to will be the church. Like he says stuff like that.
And finally, we'll start a podcasting empire.
Yeah. So we'll call it the Milkshake Club.
We'll call it the Milk Chaser podcast.
Oh God, that's oh my God,
the Milkshaker podcast.
The Milkshake, because Milk Chase, and that's a totally different podcast, which we should probably make. Anyway.
I think I accidentally created a fetish just now. Let's.
Okay,
new provision just dropped. No.
Oh God, I'm getting over my cough too. Okay, I have a story because I asked you a story time question, partially to share a story that I have. This is interesting. So, I forget what year it was, but it was probably like 2011 or something like that. And I was working the third job that I ever had, which was Radio Shack. And I was working at a Radio Shack on 68th Street and Lexington Avenue in New York City. And I was by myself at the time. Well, not 100%. Like my boss was downstairs. He was eating lunch, and it was just me and him working in the store. And it was a slow day. But this guy walks in. And he clearly was one of these dudes who had a penthouse on Park Avenue. If you know anything about 68th and Lexington, right where Hunter College is, you'll know it's like a block away from some of the residential areas of Park Avenue. This is the 10021 zip code, which is one of the richest zip codes in the world. A lot of people think it's Billionaire Row down on like 59th Street. They only called it that because billionaires use the apartments in those buildings to grift money. But there's nobody living in those apartments, really. Yeah, where some of these people actually live is at 10021 zip code. It's like a secret little pocket of rich people in New York City. This guy was living in there, and he walks in to the Radio Shack, and he has an item in his hand, and he said, "Hey, I want to return this item." And my training at Radio Shack was to ask him, "Is there anything wrong with it?" Because they train you to like replace a sale instead of take the hit of a return. Not necessarily to upsell them, but to, find a way to not give the money back, basically. And I can say this now because Radio Shack's dead. They're not going to sue me. So
everyone drank their milkshake.
So this guy, so I was like, hey, you want maybe like, I think it was a pair of headphones or something, or like a voice recorder. He was like, maybe you want this or that? Like we got smartwatches, blah, blah, blah. He said, no, I just want to, get this done. I just want to return this. He was very insistent. I'm like, okay. So I try to do the transaction. I'm in the middle of it, and more of my training kicks in, and I ask him about for whatever reason the conversation, this small transaction, which lasted about 4 minutes. This whole conversation, I mentioned the insurance that Radio Shack offered at the time, and I wasn't the best salesman in the world, especially when it comes to like things I didn't care about because it was retail. So I said that it's a good way to keep things safe. That word unlocked a floodgate of evil that I never felt before that moment in my life.
You said
safe.
The magic word.
So I said it'll keep your stuff.
You literally said the safe word, but it was the opposite. It was... In this context, the safe word was the danger word. Yeah,
the most unsafe word I could have said in that moment was the word safe. Mm-hmm. So I say this to, right. I said this to him, and I'm just like, it'll keep your stuff safe. This man looked at me like it's not a Bond villain. It's like, okay. The only way I could describe it is like if you've ever been like looking for conspiracy theories on the internet and part of you is like afraid that a government official will click on to your webcam and tell you to leave this website while staring directly at you. It was like, we know where you live. Get off this site. He looked at me like that guy. That's how he looked. It was this knowing kind of evil. It's not the kind of I see through you or I hate you, I want to hurt you kind of evil. It was this, I know more about what you are in this world than you could possibly imagine. That's it was the
I could buy you and sell you.
Right, exactly. So he looks at me, and then the next words out of his mouth after I said, it'll keep your stuff safe, he says, do you understand the functions of safety?
Oh my God! Did you meet Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men? Did he flip a coin and ask you to call it? Because that's some ominous shit to say.
He said, "I'm telling you," he said it just like in that same tone of voice. He put his hands together in like a little, ironically enough, a little triangle. He put his hands together, looked at me dead in the eye, unblinking, with his piercing blue eyes, and he said, do you understand the functions of safety? Just like that. And I froze up
sir,
because
apparently not.
Yeah, because I froze up because Radio Shack doesn't train you on how to talk to demons. So
Yeah,
I didn't know
they don't give you mandatory psychopath training.
right. I didn't know.
Not
I didn't
even
know
in retail.
right. I didn't know what to say to the retail demon returning his headphones.
I'm just imagining like the employee training video is like, well, when the man looks deeply into your soul, you need to tell your manager. It's like it's got like the hypno eyes coming out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like
Here's a reenactment. Do you understand the functions of safety?
yeah, it was nuts. So I'm like, I freeze up for like a split second. I'm like, oh no, I figure it's a bit like I'm trying to play along, like I'm appeasing to him by saying, yeah, people don't really like the insurance plan behind the thing that they think it's a way to get us to get more money or whatever. Again, I'm rambling because I don't know exactly what to do with the feeling that I just got inside of my soul. Because I don't know how to process that.
You just played a demonic chord in your heart, and you're like, oh, I haven't heard that sound before. It don't
sound
good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm standing there, I'm 20-something years old, and I'm like, I don't know how to process this much evil from a stranger. I've done it with family members. I don't know how to do it from a stranger.
This isn't home field advantage.
Right. So then he goes on to say, which he drops his voice. He puts the mask back on. That's the way I describe the next thing he says. Because when he said it, it's like every mask that he felt like he needed to wear to impress people slipped because I was just a nobody that was not associated with his daily debaucherous stuff of possibly going on islands that start with the letter E. He decided.
Yeah. Also, by the way, I'm imagining this guy looks like Valmont from the Jackie Chan Adventures.
He was honestly, he kind of.
I'm not far off, right?
He had. So I'll describe him. He was a white dude. He had. Everyone's shocked by that. He was a white guy with he was kind of balding a little bit. He had like very slick black hair. He kind of looked like a standard dictator type, frankly, but he was a little short. So it was like if Napoleon came back, but also like was a fan of Frieza from Dragon Ball Z. Like that's how he looked. Yeah. So I say this to him, and he says he hits me with the functions of safety thing, and I'm stalling and rambling. And he says, "What you're doing? It's a small sale. It's a tiny little hustle and everything compared to the other things that are happening around you." And I'm like, "Oh, I understand." And all at once it hit me. Okay, this man has made millions. I mean millions doing things, pushing numbers and money and all kinds of stuff around in the heights of the capitalist triangle that I live in that I could not possibly imagine. And he is so okay with the darkness that surrounds him that he has to work harder to pretend it's not there than he has to be inside of it. It was crazy.
Yeah. I think what I think is beautiful about that story and that ties back to my whole thesis statement is, hey, bud, you're a billionaire. Why are you fucking with a Radio Shack employee? Don't you have better shit to worry about? No, because you can't ever not worry. Anyone is a threat.
Yes.
And it's a sad state of affairs and a sad brain to live in that doesn't, not the sympathetic kind of sad, but it's like, dude, they're $10 headphones. You don't have to fuck the employee's brain because you can't look in the mirror. Oh wait, you do have to do that because you can't look. All right. Yes. You're the one with the penthouse full of there was a comedian I saw once who was like, I moved to the city and I wanted to freak out my friends. So they were like, I hope you haven't changed. And I was like, I just wanted them to come in my apartment. I'm just sitting on a throne of boys. He was like throne of boys evil in that story in my mind.
That's how I felt. Yeah. That's how I felt. He came off like the kind of dude that chilled his whiskey by freezing bullets first and dipping it in there. That's how he came off.
Yeah. And I think that's like, I know you're kidding, but that actually seems like kind of a beautiful, again, metaphor for what I'm getting at is it takes so much more fucking work to lie to yourself. Like, okay, no one's literally chilling bullets, but like, imagine if you did. That sounds like a pain in the ass. Like, why are you doing that? What are you trying to prove? You know, Daniel Plainview, in his way, is he's got fuck you money, literally.
Yeah.
But he's so desperate for everyone to acknowledge it that he literally has made a huge, never needs to work a day in his life deal, and he can't not fuck with the people he turned down for a better deal. He can't not do it because he's so miserable. He's like, look, I'm raising my kid. Yeah, fuck you. I'll drink your fucking whiskey too. And you're like, all right, you've reached making a scene in a restaurant crazy. Good. we There Will Be Blood is secretly a we can never come back to this IHOP film. But
Talk about drinking your milkshake.
So point being, that guy couldn't not go, do you know what safety truly is? Because anyone can pierce his fucking bubble. That's how hard it is. Those people's real jobs are maintaining the illusion that they're right. That's what their jobs are literally for. And that's why we need to eat them and have healthcare.
Well, I don't want to eat that dude that I met at the Radio Shack.
No, I bet it tastes bad, but you know.
It was horrible. It was like I met a Spider-Man villain. That dude was completely out of his mind evil. Like he wasn't crazy.
Yeah, like you could smell the whatever polymer, the fucking suit he's made himself because he doesn't bathe after he wears it. You're like, ugh.
He 100% has a Green Goblin glider.
He has a glider. He's got a mask. He never washes it. And like, that's a thing I'm also kind of fascinated with is like watching the rich and famous. And then sometimes when you go in their actual like personal lives, they're just kind of like normal and shitty. Like they, you know, that actress Julia Fox who dated Kanye for a while. And
she has a history of making very bad choices.
Yes, she does. She's also very good in Uncut Gems, but
she's good.
They showed her apartment. It was gross. It was like, ew, this is like small and like you need to maybe like I keep my apartment nicer than Julia Fox, and I wasn't in a Safdie Brothers movie.
If you haven't seen There Will Be Blood, or especially if you've run into a situation where you needed some kind of baseline understanding of grifters or people who don't have a strong enough sense of identity, so they have to build entire businesses or churches, because yes, religions are a coefficient for identity too, then watching There Will Be Blood might give you a little bit of context into the kind of world that we're living in right now.
Yeah.
So
if you were upset that your dreams didn't work out, watch There Will Be Blood and go, oh, sometimes getting what you want is the worst thing that could happen to you. Because, like I said, you could learn the wrong lessons from it, and those lessons will ultimately make you wish that you'd never gotten a drop of oil.
Yeah. That's a good way to place it. Good way to say it. Should I do the voice one more time?
I think we should both do the voice one more time.
Okay, we should do the voice one more time. Okay, we're gonna do the milkshake line.
Yeah, please join our Patreon and we like to think of ourselves as a content men.
We're content men. Each one of us. We're both. This is my partner, Alex. HW Alex.
And I'm just sitting there waving. Men. Oh, I would be your HW, wouldn't I? I'm okay with
God,
that, but I'm just.
You would.
Okay, remake of There Will Be Blood, but I'm okay. Am I HW or am I Eli Sunday? Where we do? Because mainly because I want to see you in the Daniel Plainview hat. I think you'd look amazing.
I would look good in that hat.
With the waistcoat and like a watch on a chain. Ooh. I can see it.
Oh, that's a look. That's a look. Okay, that's a look. We got to circle back on that one. Okay. All right. Bye, y'all.